Hello, once again, back with another Mushihimesama run. I'm so excited to share this one. This is my hardest one yet. Whatever list I was following, clearly they knew what they were talking about because this was definitely harder than the previous one. So to give some context, this is going to be a 1.0 or Novice Ultra 1 credit clear with the W shot type. So that's the slowest ship and it has a really wide shot. And my previous run was 1.0 original with, I think it was S shot type, which is the fastest ship and has more of a straight and narrow shot spread. So why am I going back to Novice after playing 1.0 original? Well, that was recommended. Specifically, this mode and this ship type was recommended for as the next logical step. And I definitely feel like that was right because I had plenty of trouble on this one. This probably took me more time and practice than any of my previous runs. So let's get into it. So W shot type, slow ship, still have that nice, I think 1.5 music. And while stage 1 is as usual, not super complicated, talk about some practice stuff. So the reason I'm going through these different modes in the order that I'm going through them in is with practicing or developing any skill. There's like a Goldilocks zone where you're playing just at the edge of your abilities. This doesn't usually go like this, by the way. That was just maybe a little bit of frustration because I had quite a few runs today before I got this one. So I was kind of turning my brain off a little bit much here. So there's a Goldilocks zone where your practice, you're trying something that is just a little bit outside of your abilities, and that's the ideal place you want to be for skill development. And I think that this sequence of playing these modes with these ship types achieves that, at least for this game. Maybe for shmups in general, but I haven't played any other shmups, really vertical shmups yet, so we'll see how it transfers. And I think the reason that W mode is recommended is I haven't really tried it, but I suspect that S mode would actually be easier. So specifically, you're supposed to use W mode and use, I think it's called, is it Super Shot or Power Shot? I don't know. That is a glitch that is used in certain modes. And what it is you hold full auto and then you press the A button at a certain frequency and that increases your damage output. But with different ship types, it works differently, and with W ship type, you don't really get the benefit of the damage unless you're basically point blank. I bet there's a little bit of damage fall off as you get at a distance, but I think part of the reason of... Oh, this is a great little trick here, look. That's the only time I really do a trick like that. That's the only one I really know about, but that's a cool one. So the W mode, in order to actually get the benefit of that super shot, you have to be point blank. So it's designed to challenge you to figure out how to start doing that. And I do it at some points. I'm sure there's more places I could do it if I was more confident with the stages, but it definitely took some effort, and I think it would be easier to kill enemies with the S mode, because with that super shot I don't think you need to be quite as close for it to work. And just looking at a couple runs of this mode with S shot type, that seemed to be the case. So the other thing is it's a slower ship, so coming from the fastest ship in the game to now the slowest ship in the game is a big adjustment, and it works better in this mode because unlike 1.0 original, this mode has quite a bit of slowdown. So stage 2, this boss hasn't given me much trouble still, but stage 2 in general has somehow become one of my problem spots. I think that's just because stage 5 was so hard. I spent so much time practicing it, and I neglected the other stages because I figured I'll just restart. But if I was going to keep playing this, I would probably practice stage 2 more, because I started having trouble here. Like, I'm just getting caught by surprise by some enemies. The really nasty thing about that section back there, if you're not careful, you can get swarmed by the popcorn. And then this, I thought I had it down, but those blue beetles, the pattern they shoot, sometimes I somehow just, yeah, like that, I'll just clip the edge of the pattern. And that was really annoying. I was about to restart, but I figured it's far enough where I should probably give it up. This is another bit that can get you, I don't know if you saw, but there was a scorpion that shoots a little spread of 3 while the blue beetle pattern is going, so that can really get you. It's the invisible bullet sort of situation, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So yes, this mode has a lot more slowdown, and but you think that'd be nice. It is. It makes this mode actually playable. But the issue with that is the slowdown is kind of jerky. I feel like there should have been more of a kind of a low pass filter applied to the rate of change of the slowdown, because yeah, it gets really jerky at some times, and that can make it hard to control, because at any given moment, the amount of slowdown that's currently active, it's not really communicated other than by just looking at the shot speed. This pattern can be really, really nasty. It looks easy, but if I dodged further to the right and I dodged far, it would chase me all up to the side, and I probably wouldn't be fast enough to avoid it. So getting used to that jerkiness, I don't know if I ever have. You just kind of learn where the slowdown happens and how much it happens, and to be ready for it. But I feel it would be nice to have more of a visual indicator of the slowdown. And also, this pattern is really cool. It's tricky. You have to dodge left and right, and you can't just blindly go left and right. Like, you have to look at the balls that are coming towards you and make sure you're moving. You have to move laterally enough so that those needles don't hit you. So yeah, this is in my Goldilocks zone. Another thing that I was thinking about with playing this, because I spent more time on this than I have before, and sometimes that can be demotivating. But there's like 2 kinds of practice that's how I think of it. Is there's a type of practice where the saying perfect practice makes perfect holds true. Like when you're learning an instrument, or you're learning a piece on an instrument, which I'm a former violinist, so that's why I always go to instrument analogies. You have to, if you just play it at tempo and you get it wrong, the amount of benefit you get out of that iteration of your practice is not very much. You have to play through it and succeed in order for you to actually develop and to get better. There's certain activities where you don't just get better just by doing them. You have to do them and succeed. And that's why a lot of practice techniques involve making the thing that you're practicing easier through something like chunking or simplifying, which is why we have things like novice mode in this game. Although the lack of a training mode for the novice mode in this game works against that. It makes practicing a lot more annoying. So I wish that they had that, but it's okay. So that's one type of practice. And then there's another type of practice. There's this concept I remember running across a while back. I don't know if it was years ago, so I don't know if it's still accepted hypothesis, but this idea of predictive processing, which is that your brain the main way that it operates is, or one of the things that it does is, it has a model of how the world works, and it's constantly running that, and that model predicts what's going to happen. And I think that's maybe an overly scientific way of explaining it, But if you think about if you're really new to video games, which for some people that's probably hard to remember, but I know when I've shown people like Super Smash Brothers or Mario Kart, especially Super Smash Brothers, when they first start playing it, the comment you'll get is it just looks like a bunch of effects and they can barely make sense of what's going on. And then as they just sit and watch it and play it, eventually they start being able to actually read the current state of the game and understand what's going on. And I think that's the case. That's the type of learning that I'm talking about is the other type. It's where you just get exposed to what you put your attention on what you're playing, and then you gradually get better at reading the state of it and processing it more efficiently. So you can because the first thing you need to do when you're playing an action game, especially, there's the OODA loop, which is used in like military stuff, like observe, orient, decide, act. So you're working on that observe and orient part of the loop so that you can decide and act. And over time, it feels like you're just able to break the visual elements down into and interpret them more efficiently. And it's also things like having an intuitive sense of the size of your hitbox and where you are on the screen. So normally with this section here, to get the extend in the other modes, there was a way to do it without bombs, but I just used an approach with 2 bombs. I didn't really figure out a bombless approach, and plus 2 bombs for an extend, which translates to like 3 bombs basically. It's profitable, and that assumes that you efficiently use all your bombs, which is never the case. So an extra life is worth more than the bombs that it gives you, at least for me. So here's this boss I've had some issues with on this mode. Thankfully I had the sense to bomb there, but yeah, that pattern gets me. This one, not so much. This one especially, I don't know what's going on, but there's sometimes like, it runs differently. I don't know what's up with that. Maybe I'm just not paying attention enough. This is cool though. I found that you can point blank here, and it's pretty consistent. And that means you do a lot of damage here, and you don't even get to the boss's next pattern. So that's something I found worked for me. And I find it motivating with practicing that second type of practice, knowing that just playing the game, even if I'm having trouble with a section, I'm dying a lot, I'm not doing well in a run, I just know that over time I'm getting better at processing the game, and there's just this kind of passive skill growth that's happening. And that's why, and part of that is also the time that it takes, because when you practice, there's only so much you can really get better at something in a given day, is what I've noticed for me. And then at that point you just have to rest and wait, and you'll just kind of passively be burning in those new neural pathways. So that's why consistent practice is so important, or so beneficial, because it maximizes the amount of time that you're just passively getting better at something, because you practice a little bit and you're kind of telling in your brain, it's like you're kind of highlighting these new neural pathways, and then they get kind of baked in, so to speak. There's like a biological explanation for it with myelination, but I think that's too much for a 1cc video. So that's another thing that helps me, is I know, just think about like how I'm getting better. Just playing is getting better, and also why I play through to the end, even when the run isn't going as perfectly as I hoped. Because just exposing myself to a full run of the game, even if I have to credit feed, is useful. I'm sure there's a certain point in development of a game where that isn't useful. But for a 1cc, I think there's a point where that can be, especially. Yeah, these guys give me the most trouble here too. I was thinking the run was probably over because of that, but got 3 lives. It's the fact that they shoot this really wide angle spread, and it's almost just perfectly at the angle that you would dodge right into it. In this snake section, also unlike the other modes, I prioritize getting up close and personal so I could maximize the damage from the super shot, and that means a little bit more aggressive play here, and trying to break all those tails. I'm not sure if this is really the safest or best route through here, but it was pretty consistent. The thing I had to remember is to open up, not always have my formation in the middle. Otherwise, the popcorn enemies, especially those little water beetle things, that will get me, just like what happened a minute ago. There's a lot of slowdown here. This last section, I never found a route that was consistent, and I eventually just decided to plan to bomb at some point here. I've had a few runs here where it went really well. I'm really bad about the wings. They don't seem like they should hit me, despite dying multiple times to them. I'm still forgetting that, so that's what got me there. I mean, I mostly got through it. It's just, I would have preferred a bombless route through there, and it's tough because the section's at the very end of the stage, so the only way you can practice in this mode is through restarting, which restarts the whole stage, so I have to start from the very beginning of the stage every time. This is a cool pattern. Definitely can get you because of that slowdown jerkiness, so at the very end of this pattern here, there's fewer projectiles on the screen, and it's going to speed up just a little bit, and that can catch you off guard with those last 2 needles right in the center. Has caught me off guard. Had a bad habit of trying to point blank this guy when the patterns that he has are not ones you should really be point blanking. That one took me a while to get down, but my trick was, I don't know why it worked for me, and you have to open up here to make sure to take out the popcorn, and now it's easy, just point blank. But that pattern, I found look at the needles coming from the left side and position laterally so that I'm dodging it, and then look at the right side and position like vertically to dodge that side. And somehow that worked, even though that logic isn't sound. And these grasshopper guys can really cause problems too, especially if you let them get off that second volley. Despite this being the slowest ship in the game, what made a big difference for me on this stage is macro dodging more often. Definitely also, once because I played this stage so much, I pretty much spent all of my practice time yesterday on this stage. Learning who shows up when has made a really big difference, so that I'm nice and close. Even without the power shot, being closer to the enemies does kill them faster. So, the more aggressive you can... So there is a risk-reward thing there. That's not normally how I dodge those, but made it work. Usually with the grasshoppers, I just sit right in the middle of them, tap left when they shoot, and then macro dodge around them if they're still able to shoot again. Yeah, so all these pitcher plants, point blank them as much as I can, and tap dodging backwards because all these little popcorn guys will shoot at you while you're doing that. I've gotten surprised by that before. And these guys I just dodge back and left, diagonally down a few taps as they shoot the spread. Seems to work really consistently, and dodging both their pattern and then any aimed shots that are coming. And this one, you can't kill it fast enough really to avoid that. So you got to dodge that first spread from the pitcher plant. Here I always made sure to kill one of the grasses and then the pitcher plant, and then kill the remaining grass. I found if I tried to kill both grasses first, it wouldn't work consistently, and I could get trapped by the pitcher plant. This pattern took me a really long time to decide how to handle it. So this isn't actually normally how it goes, but I try to dodge towards the biggest open area first and not get into one of those narrow roads. and then if I get into a road, I plan to bomb, but otherwise I try to always dodge into the big areas because those I can go through without a bomb. Zigzag, I ended up bombing. I couldn't, unless they line up really well, it's hard to be consistent there. And then the pattern before the zigzag, which went by a little bit too fast, I can't remember, actually. The pattern just escaped me. But I did have a plan for that one too. Fortunately, a death here. This is the hardest section in the game, I think, and macro dodging and getting as close as I can to those beetles, that one was what made me a lot more consistent here. I was previously trying to micro dodge them, and that's really tough. The combination of enemies here is really tricky, and trying to take out those spiders as soon as possible helps. But you can see I'm going really far around that spread and trying to be at an angle too, so adding some vertical movement to that macro dodge I think really helped. You can see I'm getting a little bit cowardly and being towards the bottom of the screen, and that is just nerves, and I figured I didn't want to risk it. I have a few bombs too, so I can afford to have to use them. But yeah, you can see how macro dodging seems to work pretty well for those big beetle / moth guys. Again, I don't know the names of any of the enemies. And this section, always I plan to bomb. I try to wait as long as possible here, and I actually bombed a little bit earlier than I normally do, just to be sure, and try to rush in while the bomb has cleared the shots and finish off those moths. Otherwise, if you have both moths firing at once, it can be iffy. And then you got to be ready for those the beetles on the right and the left. Those shoot some pretty fast projectiles, so you don't want to just be relaxed as soon as you clear the moths. And now we have the final boss, not the true last boss. I found this looks deceptively simple to dodge, and if I didn't take it seriously, sometimes that pattern lines up where you don't have to bomb there, but in this case, yeah, that was a big change on this mode, actually, is learning when you can bomb and when you can't. I wasn't able to be consistent enough on some patterns, but what I did learn is I eventually knew like when it was a pattern I had to bomb versus when it was one I could probably avoid. That one probably didn't need to, but yeah, when you get into the center there, it can be tricky. And then this, after enough trial and error, I found a specific way to get through here that is super consistent, so I was really satisfied with that. Dodge to the left here, and then they have those two whips, and they start on the outside and cross in the middle, and then they start passing, and they don't pass through the middle, so then you just hang out in the middle here and kind of do circles to dodge these aimed shots. Works really well. And then you've got this, and I'm sure there's plenty of ways to go through here. I'm not sure that mine is the best. Most of the videos you'll find of this mode seem to be like, people like me who are, it's not like the perfect run, and we're not done yet because Ultra Mode has the true last boss. This guy's really, really nasty. I found in my practicing that if you die to this guy, his patterns seem to just get harder because those like white hot spots, like they end up in a different place, so some of the patterns are different. This I felt was just completely undodgeable, so bomb there. You can really get a lot of point blank damage at that point. And then, yeah, this is it. So if you're lucky, you'll be able to just hang out in the middle here and you'll be okay, at least on the first two. On the second one, you can sometimes get lucky and be safe there, but you can see that that whip was tending a little bit close to me. So I don't know how to manipulate some of these patterns. And now this is great. You can pretty much win here. I normally don't get hit by that. That would have been easy to avoid. Thankfully, I had a life. But you can see what happens when you die. He always switches to that pattern and he gets a shield. And now you can just bomb to shut him down. but you can't damage him with that shield, so you always basically need to bomb after you die. You can't just kind of suicide and take advantage of that to deal some extra damage to him. But there we go. I guess I had a lot to say about that, more than usual. Probably just because of how much time and energy and thought I put into it. And probably not a great score at all. But that's not what we're here for. I'm glad to be done with this mode because it really annoys me not having more fine-grained practice sections. But this is the last Novice mode that I'll ever play in this game. So that won't be a problem anymore because all the other modes have it. And go ahead and stop that. And it looks like what's next on the menu is 1.0 Maniac and W Supershot. So actually the same ship, but 1.0 Maniac. So it'll be interesting to see if 1.0 Maniac has as much slowdown as like 1.5 or Novice Maniac. I'm not sure. I felt like original seemed to have the least slowdown of all in pretty much every version of the game. And W, so it's the same ship type, thankfully. Don't have to go back to a fast ship. But I do have to use Super Shot again, so that means more point blanking. So this one, yeah, took the most effort of any of them, and it was fun, challenging, frustrating. I guess I had a lot to say, so thanks. I hope I wasn't too much, but figured it makes the videos a little more interesting. You know, there's only so much going on. And I guess I'll see you next time. On to the next mode, and we'll see how long that takes me. Probably the way things are going, it's like every mode is just a little bit more time to practice for than the previous modes. So we'll see if that continues. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.